Welcome. Welcome back to Fixing My Faith. It's almost the end of the month, almost Halloween. So we're almost there. But what is October also known for? Hurricane season, disaster season. And this year we had one of the biggest disasters that has hit the US. They're saying Hurricane Helene. And when we take a look at some of the footage from Hurricane Helene, some of the drone footage, it just blows your mind. Uh, some of the damage, a lot of the homes that are displaced, people displaced, how the floods came in and just devastated everything. The dams broke loose and valleys and towns disappeared. So this is some of the footage from the hurricane. And when we look at these floods, if you've ever been in a disaster, if you're watching this program, let me know how, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, ex-Jehovah's Witness, people, let me know how, in the comments, the kind of support that Jehovah's Witnesses were on the ground doing during the hurricane. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at that van just wants to go. So we're going to look at the hurricane and what Jehovah's Witnesses do when it comes to hurricane relief. We're going to go to their website. But first of all, let's take a look at what some of the people are saying online, what they're actually talking about when it comes to hurricanes. So we're going to move over to another screen here. And the role of faith-based organizations in disaster recovery. There's a lot of correspondence with most religions, with the governments. They call them FBOs, faith-based organizations. They play a vital role in disaster relief response recovery. Faith leaders and their houses of worship or social services branches are the first place they turn for comfort, assistance, and it is the first place they think of when they want to donate their money or time to help others after a disaster. So that's what we're going to talk about today is these faith-based religions. What are they doing? Particularly Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, I also wanted to look a little further to see what the governments are expecting, the role of religious institution. I found this same thing in two articles, and it says religious institutions have a vital role and a great potential in disaster management. They often contribute in response and recovery phases of disasters, although these services are valuable, but the great potential of these groups should also be recruited to participate in preparedness and mitigation efforts as part of the disaster cycle. Coordination and collaboration of all stakeholders is essential in this way. So what they're saying is that religious institutions play a vital role. They have a way of managing and tracking people that attend their organizations, and the government has communication with these religions. So what they're saying is that it would be good if, both articles are saying that, it would be good if these religions were also on the ground helping out more. Collaboration, if everyone's involved. That's what both articles are saying. I found that also in a Cambridge study, National Library of Medicine. They're talking about it, the very same thing. So I went to to the community to find out what people are saying. Do JWs provide non-JWs with any sort of humanitarian aid? So this article talks about it. This person talks about it. And he says, it occurred to me the other day that the other high control religious groups I'm familiar with usually have some sort of public facing body that helps communities in times of need. But JWs seem absent from the list. Is this an artifact of my own ignorance or a reflection of reality? If it's a reflection of reality, uh, do Jehovah's Witnesses even help each other under such conditions? And how does that work? Okay, well, this was S. Mojosa 1 year ago. Hopefully, we'll have some answers for you today. We're going to go right to the top, right to the guts of this matter. We're going to go to the Elders book and see what it says. Now, I wanted to look at another comment, and this is a few years ago. And this fella says natural disaster relief work, a scam. My family's in depth involvement with Watchtower as a corporate entity and my personal involvement with multiple RBCs. So this guy woke up. I'm going to pin this one because it's a really interesting read. And this fella talks about how his dad was into the Watchtower. He was a factory overseer, or he was working there. And back in the 90s, 1997, he says they moved close. They were a commuter Bethelite, and his dad traveled back and forth. And he says when they went into his dad's office, like he was 15, and his dad had to lock the door, clear his desk off, shut his computer down, put all the files away before anybody could come into his office. Everything was top secret. And he says later on in years, his dad's getting older now. His dad's been kind of telling him some stuff, and so he's been relating some of the stuff. He says his dad was back when they were working at Patterson. He says they were so broke they were running month to month to pay the electricity bill. That's what he said. And he says Watchtower has been struggling. Here's what he says. First, Watchtower is extremely cash poor. What does this mean? A multi-billion-dollar corporate entity can own such things as $1 billion chunk of real estate in Brooklyn, but if it can't pay the electric bill, it means nothing. This was the state they were in 1997 when my dad started working at Patterson. And my dad has told me that the Watchtower was basically living paycheck to paycheck to keep the lights on, despite having billions in assets. He says, I'm on 100% confident that this was when the decision to move out of Brooklyn was made. And, they sold that. They were broke. And he says, my dad told us one day that the days seeing Watchtower from Brooklyn Bridge were limited. So his dad knew that. And sure enough, it got sold. And this guy says, I'm sure it took a long time to work out the legal aspects of this. That's why we have been seeing implementation. So he talked about selling kingdom halls. And he says, I'm also fairly certain that the decision to take over local kingdom halls and to be able to access cash from the sale of the real estate was made then as well, to get out of debt. So then he was talking about all the involvement he had in hurricanes. And he said when he went down to Florida, all they were after was these $700,000 houses. These were Jehovah's Witnesses, $400,000 houses. He says the insurance was just phenomenal that they pulled out of this stuff. They get the insurance. They were doing it for the insurance. And he says every once in a while they do a small house, and he says even a small homeowner, Jehovah's Witness, they'd get insurance and donate it to the Kingdom Hall. So he says it was big bucks. He wrote a book here. I had pretty well all of it. So here's what he says. So what happens is buildings get damaged. Insurance companies write checks to homeowners for the value of the repair work, and that's the material with labor. And then the Watchtower collects. He says, I now realize that when you hear people talking about going on disaster relief trips, the most recent ones being in Puerto Rico, they're going on trips to help Watchtower collect insurance checks. And now I will say this, I was witness to several instances of people with little or no money in a bad situation with damage to their homes, and we helped them out, and Watchtower didn't get any money from them. But I assure you, The work on the mansions more than made up for it. And even then, people with tiny houses that had insurance more than likely donated their checks as well. And it really is amazing scam. The cash flow has to be incredible because 60 to 70% of a project's cost is usually labor. And Watchtower has a limitless supply of free labor. And he says, now to wrap it all together, several years ago, before I completely left the religion, I had a conversation with my dad about this. And when I told him what I had figured out about the relief work, he just shook his head and said, there were many meetings I was in when I commuted to Patterson that made me uncomfortable. Okay, well, I'll pin that. It's a good read, and we're going to move over to the Watchtower and see what they say about the relief work that they do. Now I just plugged Humanitarian into the Watchtower, and not much came up. They're offering humanitarian aids in the Congo, and there was 800 and some witnesses that were displaced in the Congo because of armed conflicts in the Congo. So that's a big thing. They've made movies out of it. They've been over there, Watchtower, and they did a whole pile of videos on this. It says there's also some stuff going on in the Ukraine. They got some videos they're making on the Ukraine, and they do have some projects that they're working on. They talk about the LDC. This is the building program. It's much more than Kingdom Halls, and they make a video on it here. You see, it starts out just local design. So it's their construction program, and they get all their people. It's all free labor. They get all their people doing all this free labor all over the world, and they manage it. And they make a lot of money. Like the article said, there's a lot of money in insurance. It's kind of like a bit of an insurance scam, and I'm sure a lot of religions take advantage of that with free labor, or do they? We're going to look at some of the other religions and see what they're doing. And are they doing it for free labor? So, Jehovah's Witness, the organization, back in the 90s, they were going broke. They sold Patterson. So then they took over all the Kingdom Halls. Now they're selling all them all over the place. And now they have this labor force for free. They're really monopolizing on it. They're becoming a real estate company, realizing why were we lacking money? We have all this free labor and we can buy and sell buildings and just get free labor to build new ones. So, how do Jehovah's Witnesses use donations? Well, here's what they tell us. Examples of our activity. Okay, so donations. So here's how they use donations just globally. Building projects, preaching, printing, publishing, construction, administration, preaching, teaching, disaster relief. It's at the bottom. And there's not much said there. So they don't do a lot for disaster relief. When you read the Bible, it says to help the orphans and the widows, help the needy. Jesus helped the needy. He helped all. He didn't just help the ones in his church, he helped all the ones around. They could be a Gentile, a Samaritan. They didn't have to be a Jew. He'd help everyone. So there is a little brochure, Jehovah's Witnesses in the community. I did download it. It's for disaster relief. And it's where is it? I got a PDF on it here. I'll pull it up. Here it is. I'll get off the screen here, and then you can see it. Okay, so this is their disaster relief brochure, and it says, "Let us work what is good toward all." Okay, let us work good toward all. So let's see if they do that. That's kind of the slogan on their 4-page brochure. Now, the reason I'm focusing on this 4-page brochure, we're going to take a look at the Mormons. They have one, it's a 44-page brochure. But they have a 4-page one, the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's kind of a government standard one, is what this is. It goes back to if you go back to their website, they have that little brochure, government standard, Jehovah's Witnesses in the community. You download this little brochure. They send this PDF out to governments and stuff, communities. So it doesn't say much. It just says that they are quick responders. So we're going to look at that. Quick response: Jehovah's Witnesses have a well organized program for rapid victim assessment and relief. So they do. We read the Elders book. We covered that last night, the whole chapter, and it talked about how they call everyone. They have a list of everyone they're supposed to call everyone. While they quickly identify individuals and families in need, the witnesses are able to mobilize tens of thousands of volunteers who are able to travel on short notice and participate in relief activities. They have skilled workers, so they do have people in different areas for collection, distribution, relief supplies, and so on and so forth. They're self-supported by voluntary donations. All of the administrators and field workers are unpaid volunteers. They do not receive a salary to assist in humanitarian and recovery efforts. It says relief centers are often set up in kingdom halls or large assembly halls. So let me know in the comments if that's the case. If there are, for Hurricane Helene, a lot of the kingdom halls were okay. We looked at them at the report. So they do give emotional support. Elders will call you emotional support. They show a couple areas that they've helped: Japan, Hungary, Philippines, Nepal, Malawi, Venezuela. They don't give any amount of money that they've put into this, but they just show that. No scripture on love. Okay, let's move on and look at what's next. I wanted to look at, I went to their website and I plugged in. You know how religions brag about humanitarian work, how much money they spent, so on and so forth? There's no such thing on JW.org, no bragging. I plugged in humanitarian work. Not much, a lot of talks come up. Do Jehovah's Witnesses do missionary work? 2023, a year of anxiety. Like nothing's coming up. So then I deepened my search and let me go back to the search. I deepened my search and I put humanitarian work for 2024, 2023, and a few things come up. Okay, so I searched a bit more. This comes up: disaster relief in 2022. And it shows these planes here, some relief stuff coming in. Looks like in maybe um, tropical area. So it talks about what the Bible foretold. This is earthquake in Haiti. So they talk about it. They said the branch supplied over 53 tons of food, tents, and so on and so forth. So there is displacement of people. So the branch got involved there. And then they talk about the tropical storm in Malawi, and they got involved there. And that's it. That's all I could find. Okay, so we're going to get into the Elders book. I'm wondering, a lot of people have not seen this Elders book. I'm wondering if you've seen it. Now, this is the Shepherding the Flock book. It's a secret Elders book. They don't, they put it in the drawer. No one's allowed to see this book. So it's Shepherding the Flock. This is the 2024 edition. This is what they tell the people today. Now, we get into the table of contents and you come down. They have a section on everything in this book. If you're interested in knowing more, I actually read the whole book every Monday night. I read this book. And last night we we're on chapter 26, Disaster Preparedness and Response. So they have a whole chapter on it. And a lot of what it is just confirming and instructions to the elders on how to keep records of people and have emergency response people. But I was interested in the practical support. So there's a section here, providing ongoing practical support. So we go right into there, and I'm going to blow that up for you guys so you can see it, get it bigger even. Okay, so provide practical support. If damage was extensive or the relief effort will continue for weeks or months, elders should be alert to do the following. Identify the congregation publishers who could offer temporary accommodations for those who are displaced during construction for construction volunteers. So they want to get the local people involved and if they have a spare room or something. And number two, ensure that the supplies are distributed equally and adequately. And number three, accompany local design construction department people. And number four, help publishers. Here's what they're saying: help publishers determine if they qualify for material assistance through government or social programs, personal assurance, or some other source. So they don't want the publishers going to the Watchtower for material needs and stuff, because there's government programs, social programs, personal insurance, or other sources, or some other source, maybe family or friends. So the fact of the matter is, Watchtower does not have a program on disaster relief. It has to be approved by the branch. And if the branch approves a certain area, they go in and make a video and they do a lot of press release on it. So it has to be approved by the branch, and they also have to have the money for it. So here's what they're saying: if a particular relief organization is in general of a religious nature but funded by government, there is no objection to publishers accepting humanitarian aid as long as they're also not accepting membership in a religious organization. Well, like, come on, Watchtower. And this is what they're telling their elders. So they're saying you can go to, if the Catholic Church is out there at the soup kitchen, the Mormons are out there, the Seventh Day Adventists are out there, and they all are out there on the front lines, and they work with the governments, and they have like thousands of projects. I looked at the Catholic site, the Mormon site. The Mormons, they really brag a lot. They have you plug in the Mormons, and so many websites come up, and they put 1.3 billion this last year into humanitarian needs. They actually spell it out. The Catholics do too. And the Catholics tell you that they pay their administrators, they pay their people. The Mormons, some people get paid, some don't. Seventh-day Adventists, some get paid, some don't. So there's always some volunteers, but the professional people are getting paid. In the Mormons, like if you're an IT professional, you're making 112,000 a year. If you're a lower end job, you're making 40,000 a year. In the Mormon church, they actually have jobs, and they hand out the money to their people. So not Jehovah's Witnesses. If a particular relief organization like the Mormons, the Catholics, and the Seventh-day Adventists, they're all working with the government, Watchtower says there is no objection to a publisher accepting humanitarian aid. Just don't take their brochures, is what they're saying. Don't accept a membership into the organization. They don't want to lose you over this, right? And I guarantee you, if there's a non-denominational, like a food bank, the elders are going to say, no, 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 stay away from the Mormons, stay away from the Catholics, go down to the food bank. That's what they're going to tell them. But if there isn't a food bank there, and it's the Mormons or the Catholics that are doing that area, the elders are sending their people there. It's right in the elders book. So now it says, before they submit an application for such assistance, ensure that the publishers understand what would be required of them after they receive help. Wow. So they have to submit an application for assistance. So your house is wiped out. You have no place to live. You're going down every day to the Mormons or to the Catholic soup kitchen, because that's what the elders told you to do. And you got to fill out this application to get some assistance. So ensure that the publishers understand what would be required of them after they receive help. I don't know what that means. These are personal matters for publishers to consider before entering into an agreement. So there's an agreement that they have to sign. So I think that's where we read that article. They're turning over their insurance money to the Watchtower. Maybe that's the agreement that they're making. If they have insurance, I'm not sure. It says it's all about the LDC Disaster Relief Committee to determine which publisher qualifies for reconstruction assistance. So, number one, if you're not a publisher, If you're not checking the publisher box and they don't see you out in service regularly, you're not a publisher. You may not qualify for the reconstruction assistance. So you see, folks, Watchtower is bragging about helping people that are not in their own religion. But here they're saying that some publishers may not qualify. And if you're not a publisher, I don't know if you can even apply. Like, let's say you just haven't been out in service for 3 months. They call that irregular, inactive, and you became inactive for one reason or another, and a hurricane hits. You're not a publisher. You may not qualify. So here you go. You got people within this organization, the weaker ones, and Jesus helped the weaker ones, right? The lowly ones, the orphans, the widows. Those are the ones that need the help. And here's the other thing I think everyone has to know. If a disaster happens in another area, you're not allowed to donate. Here's what they're told. They pray for them, but if you want to, they get right into it. Those desiring to provide monetary assistance may donate to the worldwide work. Now that's a trap because they've changed it. They used to have a box just for humanitarian needs, but they changed it. Now, by calling it worldwide work, they can use it for anything. And they tell us that. They tell us they use it to print, they use it to build, they use it to pay for CSA lawyers. They don't tell us that. But we do know they have legal bills and they do talk about their lawyers a lot. So we do know that that's part of the cost. But those CSA bills, man, they're getting big. If you're paying out a $35 million settlement to one person, those CSA bills, you have to sell a lot of kingdom halls to pay that kind of stuff off. So this is what's happening. Watchtower, they they only have so much money to work with. So I think maybe that's why they can only do so much. Maybe, or maybe they don't want to do so to get on the front lines and help. But if you want to help out, Watchtower is asking you. Well, they're telling the elders to tell you to send it in to their branch, to the Worldwide Work. Now, the Worldwide Work goes all the way in to New York. It's a big world out there, 279 lands. So when you contribute to the Worldwide Work, it goes all the way to New York, into the hands of the governing body. It's not kept within the country to help where the disaster is. You see, it's channeled all the way to New York. And they say it's not appropriate for individuals to take the initiative to collect privately or social media to assist people in disasters, congregations in disasters. They don't want you doing that. It should all be sent to they don't want anything being sent to the disaster area. It all goes through them. So they control it. But you remember we read that when there's a disaster, people flood into the branches and to the churches and the church headquarters, and they open their doors. All the churches open their doors to the people. Well, here's what the branch does. Number 4, the branch office should not be called. They don't even want a phone call from you, let alone showing up on their doorstep. That's what they're saying in the elders book. The branch office should not be called for information. This can tie up the phone lines. And I agree with that to an extent, but there's nothing in here. They don't want you all running over to the branch for refuge. It's not set up for that. It's set up for you to go down to the local people, the local governments, get assistance. Publishers should not travel to those affected areas. And you should not talk to the media. They have a media department. So that's everything that has to do with hurricanes. But this blew me away. Help publishers determine if they qualify for assistance through the government, social programs, insurance, or other sources. And if there's a relief organization of a religious nature out there, there's no objection to the publishers accepting humanitarian aid, as long as they don't accept their brochures and membership. That's what they're saying here. So the elders are going to help you go down to the local food banks, take advantage of the wicked system, because keep in mind, folks, this is the wicked system out there. And Watchtower calls all of this, everything out there, the wicked system. But that's what they're telling their members to do. Go to the wicked system, go to the Mormons, go to the Catholics, go to the Seventh Day Adventists, whoever has a ground crew out there, and they'll give you some help. You see, Watchtower only sets up relief if it's approved, and they only approve a couple of projects a year. 2, 3, anything that they can make a few videos on, and that's what I've noticed. Okay, so from there, we'll leave it at that. I could show you a lot of Catholic sites and stuff like that, but you can Google it yourself. Do the research. So if you're in a disaster, let me know on the channel. I would like to see this in the comments. How did you get help in the disaster? Was there a Kingdom Hall opened up? Was a Kingdom Hall opened up? Were they feeding people? Were there lineups of people? And if there were, let us know, because we'll make a video on that if there were. But anyways, according to the elders book, it doesn't look like that's the way it works. This is all approved by the branch, and the branch only comes in a big way on big projects like the Ukraine, Haiti, where people are displaced, the Congo, where there was 870 people displaced. So they came in, they had to come in, and they had to do something. So they did. They put up some tents and things like that. But the only number I found was 250,000 was spent in one of the projects. Not a lot of money. Not a lot of money. Watchtower spent 500,000 US alone on their legal bill for the Norway court case. But yet they go to some of these hurricane areas and they only spend 250,000. So there you have it, folks. It's expensive if you're fighting CSA and trying to help the orphans and the widows at the same time. That's a tough feat for any religion. Well, until next time, keep living your life with love. We'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.